pseudonym Chubby Cox, Zero Chaos has settled comfortably into his backup career of wireless security. So both of them have a talk for us today. It's called Intro for New WCTFers, Wireless Capture the Flaggers. Give it up for them.
Thank you. Well, good evening, afternoon-ish, morning, depending on the time zones from which you traveled. Thank you for coming and visiting. This to say that it is not important who we are. What we do is important because what we try to provide for you. A safe, happy, fun-filled environment for doing Wi-Fi, capture the flag, SDR capture the flag, and just general radio capture all the flags sort of stuff. The purpose of our talk is more or less, who's played in the wireless capture the flag before? Damn you, Dan. Oh, there you are. All right, Sparrow Suitcase. Yeah. We have new folks involved with us who are previous individuals who played way too frequently and won way too frequently. So the bell curve is now shifted back out of their poisoning of the grade curve of all CTF challenges. So it should be fun again, I guess. But that aside, for those who haven't played, who plans on coming out to going to DEF CON this year? All righty. Who's going to go to the Wireless Village at DEF CON this year? Even better. This is what I wanted to see. Who's going to play in the CTF? All right. Good news for those who didn't raise their hands. We have a new scoreboard system, so it's easier to register and submit points. It's instantaneous feedback. We have a variety of challenges. We've got the Wi-Fi and the SDR stuff, but we've bolted on even crazier SDR things. So we also have passive RFID, some Zigbee stuff, you name it, it's probably going to be there. So please come by, please enter. It's fairly easy now at this point to throw some points on the board, and one of the new things about the scoring system is that it is not just maintaining your points and your score for DEF CON. You'll be able to track your progress by over the remainder of the cons that we're at, because we'll start holding on to that historical information so that you can see how well you're doing and eventually become an MVP for your own team. So I'll get off the soapbox for a minute and give Zero a chance.
I'll get back on the soapbox. This is great. I gotta stay a little closer. Is this thing on? I'm short. There we go. Okay. How many of you are familiar with the talks that we normally present at the Wi-Fi Village, DEF CON? We do this stuff because we want to share what we find fun with everybody. We do this because we love it, and we do this because we want more people to love it as much as we do and have fun. And this year, not only are we doing all the track talks here at B-Sides, we've got a whole series of workshops at the Wireless Village just to get as much bang for your buck as possible. Come hang out. We've got a bunch of hands-on stuff. And the goal is really education. And that's why we're giving an entire talk on how to win our contest. Because we just want you to play and have fun and learn things that you've never done before. I know that I haven't won all of these challenges myself. So God forbid everything's actually working. I'll be playing and see if I can beat you all just for the fun of it. The answer is probably not based on the previous competition, but we'll find out together. Your Mac sucks. It already doesn't work. Good God. Okay. So the reason why we do the wireless capture the flag, RF technology is really, really, really exploding over the last couple of years. It's used for so many things. It's so cheap. China. Just stuff's everywhere. And we found that a lot of people don't understand a lot of this technology, and they're not even looking for a lot of this technology. So many companies are like, oh, we don't use Wi-Fi. It's fine. We're totally secure. When every device they have has a Wi-Fi chip in it, so everybody's walking around with 2 or 3 Wi-Fi radios, but they don't do Wi-Fi there. And that's just Wi-Fi. Now let's think about all the other radios that are in the building, the wireless headsets, the mics planted from some competitor, even the bloody laser mic pointed in the window. I mean, we all know that this stuff exists, and we all call ourselves pen testers. A lot of us call ourselves pen testers, and nobody even looks for this stuff. So we decided that we wanted to be James. So we started working on this stuff, how to use it, how to detect it, how to mess with it, and we're just having a good old time. So, used to be special, expensive, now it's $20 friggin'. There's a bunch of vendors that'll sell you an RTL SDR. If you don't have one, or if you need a couple extra, Hack RFs and Blade RFs should probably both be for sale. Buy some toys, start cheap, trust me. start cheap, and have some fun with us. Your clicker, my clicker does not work on your Mac. It hates you. Legal issues. I kind of tried to put a little bit of a stop to this BS in the last talk. We're not lawyers. I will happily tell you things that I know. It really boils down to don't be a dick. Seriously. Quit trying to find loopholes in the laws. Just stop, because somebody's going to decide you were wrong and the fines are way more than you want to.
How many of you stayed in the Holiday Inn Express last night? It didn't matter. All it takes is one person on the other side of the fence to think that you did something wrong and your life changes.
Yeah, so in all seriousness, FCC has lawful intercept guidelines on their website. It's really, really simple. You're allowed to listen to stuff, not use it for business gain, not really allowed to share it with anybody else, with the exclusion of anything provided by the telcos, which you're not allowed to listen to at all. So, yes, it's great. Somebody's got GR or GSM on YouTube. Downloading it and compiling it is a violation of the law as far as I am concerned. You're welcome to consult your own lawyers on that. I've talked to quite a few. And in addition to being a little bit poorer, I still don't use GR, GSM. So, there's that. Wiretap, dual party consents. Keep in mind when you're listening to other people's phone calls and doing something stupid like recording them.
Or of the people's Wi-Fi packets. Depending on how far you go into the packet, you may be violating wiretap law. So it's...
Or, for instance, in this lovely ninth circuit that we're in right now, Wi-Fi is not actually radio. So you're not allowed to monitor Wi-Fi, because while you're allowed to monitor radio, Wi-Fi is not radio. Feel free to write the Supreme Court Justice who decided that and kick him for me. So how do we do this? We divided our game up. A couple of years back, there was not really much of an SDR scene, so it was all Wi-Fi. And now we're almost a dead even split on non-Wi-Fi or SDR-related stuff. So, there's crypto challenges where you're breaking keys. There's looking for certain hashes, and general communication interception like, well, there's this network and there's a bunch of data being spewed out. I wonder if any of it's interesting. I guarantee it is, because I don't bother putting data on networks if the anticipation isn't for you to intercept it. I might also be torrenting something at the time, but that's neither here nor there. SDR flags.
Yeah, I primarily focus around protocol identification reversal, pulling out the bit streams of those communications. Then you take a look at the files that you just pulled out, and you can go into a rabbit hole on the files as well. I go so far into it, I actually now have started putting the word stop so that people don't continue to go along with them, because they are pretty in-depth. Some of the challenges, you don't need a ham radio license. All you got to do is receive. Some of the other ones, you do need to have a ham radio license because you need to transmit. An example of that one is we have Fox and Hound. We have a software-defined radio, Fox and Hound. And then on top of that, we also have something I call the software-defined radio Duck Hunt, which there is a transceiver that's roaming around the area where it is emitting sound of a duck quacking. You have to find wherever the duck is and transmit bang using FSK. I give the instructions on how to do this on the website. If the duck successfully decodes the word bang, it responds back with a hash. That hash is your duck that you submit for flags. Well, I use a mismatched radio system for it, so you have to make sure that you are very directional in your shot at the duck. In other words, you put a choke on your shotgun. If you shoot too frequently, or it detects the word bang incorrectly or anything along those lines, the duck flies away, you hear the Nintendo dog laugh at you, and it hides for about maybe between a minute to 5 minutes, somewhere randomly within there, to give the opportunity for the duck to keep wandering away. In order to play, you have to show us your ham radio operator's license, and then we register you as an official hunter. Then on top of that, you can also poach. However, do not shoot. You can collect the duck before, after it's been shot, submit the flags before the person, the legitimate hunter does. So this can turn into a bit of a goofy little team effort. The last challenge that we're debuting right now is software-defined radio Russian roulette, which involves who has dogs? No? Yeah? All right. Who has really horribly trained dogs? Who has dog shock collars? Not for the dogs, but for, personal time.
You laugh, but we've been testing it all night.
I still can't feel my left leg.
Or from last night.
Exactly. So the object of this game, it uses FSK. It will either beep, vibrate, shock, or flash. I am randomly transmitting each of these signals. If you wish to play, receive the signals, try to guess which one is which, strap it to your calf, and if it does one of those 4 things, you win.
Depending on which one it does, you might really win.
The shock is painful. It has a setting between 0 and 100, and when you buy the kit, it comes with 2 collars. I think I broke the other one because I put it on my foot and set it to 100, and so hard that I think it broke, so I only have one. Next year, we'll probably have the game kind of a shootout. So in other words, you have to shock the opponent's collar before they shock yours. So it's kind of a rush to... anyways, we're coming up with kind of crazy, painful, fun ways to learn these things. So feel free to come by and learn something new with force.
You guys crowd around the door. I've actually got some down up front if you want to come on in and sit down. Not a lot of chairs. Yeah, there are still some chairs left too, so just make yourselves at home.
We don't bite, but we may spit.
Don't bite, but we do have the dog collar with us. So, Recon. Number 1, I've always been a really big passive analysis fan, so know your wireless environment. Look around, see what's going on. That's absolutely first and foremost. One of the things I've always been surprised by is that nobody just sits down and starts logging everything. Like, I expected the first year for, like, a team to show up with, like, a giant NAS or a shared hard drive or something, just be logging to it all the time. But no, people take it one challenge at a time. They're not capturing packets 90% of the time, and it's like, well, yeah, that's a good strategy for losing. Seriously, know what's going on at all times. Be monitoring at all times. I know that, like PCI says, if you go to a place once a quarter for 5 minutes, that it's totally secure, but there's a lot of other minutes in there that you should really be monitoring, and we absolutely abuse that fact. Hint, serious monitor. Wi-Fi is good with Kismet. I definitely recommend Kismet over anything else because it just plain does a better job capturing, decoding. Aerodump NG is great for when you're trying to do cracking. It's got a bunch of stats in there for you that are really helpful, but Kismet really does a much better job of taking multiple cards, storing all the packets, that kind of stuff.
On the SDR side, there's a program called FreakWatch, which uses a modified version of RTL Power, or you can just use RTL Power. It requires a little bit of massaging to get to work, but it's not too much of an effort. But the easiest one is just GQRX. Know your wireless neighborhood, your radio neighborhood. You need to create an established baseline. So in other words, go somewhere outside of where we're transmitting in order to kind of get a lay of the land as to what's there. That way when you come in, you can easily identify which signals we're transmitting from the ones that we're not. The major difference that I'm doing this year from previous conferences is that I was fairly aggressive on my repetition of transmission. So it would be like when it would finish sending one message, it would pause for like 30 seconds and start all over again. Not this year. They're going to be a little bit more sparse, and some of them may require you to trigger them. So kind of like port knocking. So it's all folded around a theme that we had this year for the village, which we'll get to a little bit later. But you really, really, really need to understand who and what is around you so that you don't get lost or distracted in an actual legitimate signal.
Yay! Break stuff. As you were saying, knowing your environment is really key. Knowing your tools is really key. We've got websites that are up year-round that we update because we go to dozen-plus conferences every year. SDR.Ninja has guides. They're written by him. They include how to do a whole bunch of really random, different things with SDR. I would imagine that 100% of them are exactly related to how you play the wireless capture the flag game, because we pretty much eat up, I think, almost all of Russ's free time. So he's got nothing else to write about except for what we do. So we've got this stuff on the websites. We've got homework for you. You can look up. You can play these games at home. You can practice. You can learn, and you can score points. The game is set up so that a newbie can get points. You shouldn't need that much magical experience to do this. But practice means you're going to get a lot more points. So come
and you'll
in
do it faster.
and you'll be faster. So come in, learn with us the challenges you don't know, and rock out and beat up the challenges that you do know. Use it as an opportunity not just to play the game, but as an opportunity to learn something, because that's the whole point for us. We always say full offense, full defense is in effect. That includes social engineering. That means come up and talk to us. Last year we had several contestants come up to us and ask us if they could have a key. We gave almost all of them a key.
Yeah.
Some of them were good points, some of them were negative points. It really depends on how you asked us. But the point is if you don't ask for help, you're not going to get help. We have people come up and say, I've been trying to attack this challenge for hours. Could you just check if it's even working? Yes. What happens if we check if it's working? We're going to go through all the steps to break the challenge for you. Maybe if you were to be observing it, capturing on that frequency, social engineering us, stealing the flag that we just earned you? Just saying, this is a full game. Offense, defense, learning. Come by, abuse us. It's fun for everybody.
I would also mention that speed is of the essence when scoring. Some of the flags are static, so it's 100 points. It's always 100 points. Other flags decay based upon time, so if you score them now versus waiting 5 minutes, you've lost points.
We got really tired of traditional capture the flags, where people did BS like never submit a flag until the last 3 minutes so that nobody was trying very hard, and stupid stuff like puzzles that have no real-world application. So all of this is real-world stuff. This is stuff that we bought at like Home Depot and hacked on, or some pass systems for toll roads, or things like that we just came across. So, I mean, this is real-world stuff and real-world consequences. The guy who breaks in first definitely is going to get more information than the guy who breaks in second, just like you're going to get more points for doing it quick than you are for doing it slow. So we really want to encourage this to not be a game. We want this to be as realistic as humanly possible, and that's the way we plan things out. So it's definitely important to and do your damage and take your points home. Platform selection. Internet access, I would have to say, is a must unless you are some kind of a savant. Even the guys who I would say are nearly savants have to look up this stuff. It's really critical. Internet access, we offer it in the village. DEF CON offers it if you've got a load of stones. Or you just plug your USB wire into your phone and tether. Whatever you need to do to feel safe about it, do that, because seriously, the internet's going to be a big help. Laptop, almost everybody does it on a laptop. I've seen like one dude bring a desktop, and hey, that's great, I mean, if you really want to get that WPA challenge out of the way with your 8 GPUs, that's fine. But a lot of times walking around doing duck hunt with a desktop just doesn't work very well. So laptops, tablets, we've had a
really
guy take second place using nothing but his tablet. So I don't know if that's saying all of you suck or what, but seriously, equipment selection is really key. High-end processor for SDR stuff is definitely a benefit to you. I can tell you that the faster I make my FFT move, the more likely I am to see useful things versus making it go really slowly on an old piece of junk. 16 gigs of RAM or more. You don't need this. You can run on 2 or 4 or things like that. But especially when you start talking about people that are picking like a Mac, or they're doing something with VMs or something like that, having that extra RAM is a major benefit to you.
So when you start getting really competitive for the prizes, this is more the direction that you're going to want to work towards.
Yeah.
This is close to the gold standard.
Yeah. Hard drive space for lots of captures. Again, we do outbriefs, and every year we've made fun of people for not bringing a NAS, and so far that hasn't caused anybody to change their mind about doing that. But like a shared team hard drive, lots of dumps. Seriously, log everything. Why wouldn't you? Yeah, screen space, decent screen resolution definitely makes a huge difference. I can tell you, hacking on my N900 versus my PwnPad 3 is a world of difference. One is a tiny little cell phone, the other one's an 8-inch tablet, and then good job, the laptop just makes life so easy. External radios, antennas, yes, it's got a Wi-Fi card built in, and it mostly sucks. Seriously, get a couple of different Wi-Fi cards, radios, SDRs. We'll go into specifics.
External connectors are your friend.
External antenna connectors are great. Power supplies, enough outlets, enough power. What most of us do is we say, okay, kit. It requires 3 outlets. Go to Best Buy, buy the thing that turns 1 outlet into 3. Throw that in the bag next to all the power bricks. It's really funny to see Russ messing with us.
Yeah.
That was kind of weak. It was there. Now you stink. It's really important to have enough power. We've actually seen people compete and just not be able to plug in all of their stuff. So, like, we're providing power to a point, but, like, if you need 6 outlets, your ass better plan for that. It's kind of key. Powered USB hubs. Anybody ever shut down a computer by draining too much power off the USB bus? I'm not the only one. Excellent. Yeah, you can totally do that. Powered USB hubs are a good thing. They're not just for charging your cell phone anymore. Yeah. Operating systems. We are heavily skewed towards Pentoo because...
Can't imagine why.
Because I am a self-centered asshole and it's my distro. That said...
If anything's wrong with it, he doesn't care.
Yeah. That said, if we're heavily skewed towards Pentoo, and I'm the developer of Pentoo, and I work on the wireless capture the flag, odds are reasonable that most of what you need happens to be in there. We also highly recommend the GNU Radio Live CD. Those guys put out a lot of stuff. They actually include some things that I'm unwilling to include in Pentoo for various legal reasons, but they're happy to include it, so we recommend using it sometimes. You can use Windows.
Amazingly enough.
Why am I able to still stand here? Nobody throws it. This clearly is a Shmoo-Con. I am disappointed in all of you. Whatever. And then at the bottom of the list, we threw Kali in there. Software tools.
And I that you can either grab Pentoo, or you can go and install all this stuff on your own. Download Pentoo, install all this stuff on your own.
There may or may not be a release of Pentoo tonight.
I may be a glutton for punishment. Like, I have electric dog shock collars. But I'm not that big of a...
wearing last night. Just saying. While I held the remote. Software tools. Here's stuff. This is all on our website, so those of you that are trying to constantly take pictures of my slides, it's actually already on the website. Like 5 different versions of this, and I'll have these ones up tonight. Again, this is for your benefit. We want you to play our game and win. So, what's your website? Right. So several different websites. We've got
WCTF.us.
Yeah, WCTF.us is the wireless capture the flag website, and then we own SDR.ninja and wirelessvillage.ninja. So we've got lots of websites, but
those are the 3 main ones. They each focus on a major theme on their own,
and they all link to each other.
And they all cross each other. So if you're looking for the Wi-Fi stuff, you'll find all of it on WCTF.us. If you're looking for the SDR hints, SDR.ninja. If you're looking to find out where the village is going to be, where we do our talks and our challenges, is the Wireless Village website.
Those of you in the back, there's still some seats up front. Russ and I both showered this morning separately, so you're welcome to join us if you want. We don't smell or anything.
Regretfully.
There's a lot of spitting, but... so these are the general pieces of software that we outline that recommend for use. This is not an exhaustive list, but it's definitely a really good start. Bunch of Wi-Fi tools, bunch of SDR tools. SDR is much less of a one-trick pony than Wi-Fi. You can get really dangerous with Wi-Fi using just Kismet. SDR, pretty much, it's a lot of purpose-built tools. Almost all of them plug into GNU Radio, so you could do it pretty much just with GNU Radio and dragging little float blocks back and forth if you're a masochist. But there's also some really great tools to help you out, so I highly recommend it. In addition to that, hardware tools. This is key. Having the right hardware is really important. We designed this game so that you can compete with about $40 worth of hardware and get maybe 75% of the available points. 75% of the available points is more than anybody has ever scored in our game. Don't correct me, Red Baron. I'll be upset. 75% is more than anybody has ever scored in our game. We win with $40 worth of hardware. There are challenges where $3,000 worth of hardware might significantly benefit you. But you could get points using just $40 worth of hardware, which would be a simple TP-Link Wi-Fi card and an RTL SDR. Okay? This is if you want to get crazy. We've got all kinds of fun stuff. Different spectrum analyzers, the MetaGeek stuff, the Signal Hound. even the Hacker F, which is like my most favorite device to use as a spectrum analyzer.
Yeah, we have a variety
it's
of
the most expensive spectrum analyzer, but it's almost always the cheapest one.
Well, we have a variety of the SDR tools that are specified based upon the different SDR radios. So there's an SDR challenge built that you need to have a HackRF to use. There's an SDR challenge that's built that you need to have a USRP to use. Then there's another one that you need to have to use. So it kind of showcases the difference between those different tools that are out there. So part of this is for your own learning, and when you decide to bite the bullet to buy one of those slightly more expensive things, life will be peachy. Yes, sir. Yeah, no, we do have Bluetooth tools, not tools, challenges, and the Ubertooth. If you Dominic's bill is.
Because it's not going to work with anything that's
so the gentleman who works for Great Scott Gadgets in the background is telling us that we should add to our software slide software that works with the hardware we're recommending, when in actuality, if you were to download Pen to the suggested distro, Kismet works with the Ubertooth. We've already got all that installed for you. Just throwing it out there that the slides are complete, although not exhaustive. Yeah, having the Ubertooth utils is nice. There's not a lot of challenges that are Bluetooth related, but that will definitely help you. Again, the right tools for the right job. If you're doing Bluetooth work, it's pretty exclusively Ubertooth. There's not really a lot of other
Not going to
alternatives
really have anything
out
else
there.
for that.
Yeah, it's like class 1 Bluetooth adapter, Ubertooth. That's all of it. There's not really any other tools out there unless you got like 10 grand or something. Don't you even talk about GR Bluetooth. Yes, as long as you use the new radio from 2011, so it'll probably work great with Cali. Anyway, got a things recommended, different Zigbee radios, Killer B. They've got some new hardware out that's actually good for Zigbee. Rosewill RNX 9 N600 UBE is the dual band card that I've been recommending up till about a month ago. Now I'm recommending the Alpha AWUS 051NH version 2. That's because that device just edges out a little bit better in performance, and it's easier to find because they keep changing the Rosewill chipset on me, making things a lot harder. The TP-Link WN722N is like a $13, maybe $12, depending on the Amazon day, Wi-Fi adapter that is absolutely phenomenal. It's got fantastic performance. We keep like 10 or 15 of them in the village to run the challenges. That's what we use. And when they burn themselves out, we throw them in the garbage and we grab the next one from the stack because they're $13. When we first started doing Wi-Fi, my first access point was 300. My first client was 100. And for several years, that was it. Like if you wanted a good Wi-Fi card, it was $200+. And now really good Wi-Fi cards are $13. So just like buy 10 and call it a day. I think we've bought Micro Center out like 3 times now on the way to DEF CON. So, yeah. GPS systems, sometimes it's nice to know where the hell you are, what's going on, making pretty pictures.
Timing and location is important sometimes.
Timing and location is important. Mobile devices, Nokia N900s, Pwn pads. I think Cali's got something that they talk about. It's really nice to have mobile devices. As I said, we had a guy come in second using just his Android tablet because he didn't want to bring his computer to DEF CON and he didn't know he was going to play in the game. And he's like, oh, this is all I've got. Can I play on it? Like, if you can figure out how to submit keys, bro, you can. We don't care. So he installed GPG on there and started playing and actually did a bang-up job. So, I mean, you don't need an amazing amount of hardware. You can play with whatever. And sometimes having small stuff is really convenient. They were playing Fox and Hound last year with a girl with an N900 in her pocket and a antenna in her bra. And she would just walk around looking around, just seeing what's going on. You know, she's just following people around, sticking her chest out, which was absolutely hilarious. But it worked. She found the Fox eventually.
First one.
Yeah, first one.
First one to find the Fox.
Yes. USB hubs, USB power, USB Ethernet. As I said, we try to keep these games realistic. Sometimes having Ethernet helps. I think every year, one of the earlier questions we have is, do you mind if I plug into your Switch? The answer is no. I'll save you time on that. No, you can't plug into the Switch. However, gotta ask, right? I mean, if you don't ask, the answer is no. And if you just do it without asking, that's still social engineering, right? If I don't stop you. Headphones.
We'll have the chat about headphones in a second.
Yeah, we'll talk about headphones as well as antennas. Radios. This is some pretty pictures. Radios are good. Lots of radios is better.
There's a lot of different ones. If you go to the websites, WCTF.us, you'll see this list there. So, and on SDR.Ninja, I hyperlink directly to various Amazon places and other web stores for antennas, accoutrements of galore, and other tools and capabilities that you may want to consider to go from novice to crazy level.
Anyone know what year it is? It's 2015. Anybody know when the gray Alpha card that everybody's so fond of came out? The AWUS036H. I'll give you a hint. It's been like almost 10 years.
Yeah, it was
The thing is like 7, 8 years old now. In 2015, we have this cool thing called 802.11ac. Like, it's really funny. Like, people don't come with equipment from this year. They say, oh, yeah, I don't need that to crack WEP. I've got this 802.11g card. It's totally fine. Yes, you keep playing like that. We literally had a challenge at one of the conferences that was connect to the AC access point at AC speed and look at the splash page to get points. And we had exactly 0 people get those points. Okay? When I say this game is easy to play, I mean you could have gotten those points on the cell phone that was in your pocket, but these people were playing it on laptops that were a couple of years old, and they were plugging in even older Wi-Fi cards, and they just couldn't figure out why it doesn't work. They're like, it's unencrypted. What's the trick? Is there MAC filtering? No. Could you maybe look at the response frame that rejects you? It says that I don't support the right mode. Really?
That's funny.
Huh. Like,
and
the guy will be like texting his girlfriend on his S5 that has an AC card in it, and then put it back in his pocket and go back to his 10-year-old one that's got no prayer, right? Having the right equipment is really key. Again, you can play this with $13, but sometimes even your cell phone is an amazing accessory to you.
Headphones.
Please. You will be thrown ass out if you don't have headphones and you're playing one of the SDR challenges.
Yes, and also make sure that different headphones have different levels of clarity for hearing certain types of signals. They may be whispering at you. The ham radio protocols.
Would you say they whisper a lot?
Anyways, what you'll also end up finding out, the earbuds for the most part are going to be fine. However, wearing those earbuds for 8, 10, 12 hours at length will start making your ears want to reject your face hole. Anyways, I don't think that made much sense. Anyways,
make a really simple analogy. You can get a $200 set of Beats headphones that are going to blow the bass way out of proportion on the signal, or you can buy like a $20 pair of reference headphones that are going to give you the signal correctly and be comfortable enough that you can wear them most of the day.
And pay attention to those other types of fancier headphones, because a lot of them come with extra electronics that will reprocess and resample the audio and essentially lie to you. So it's like a really elaborate game of whisper down the lane. So they'll filter out certain things that you just won't hear, because, why would you want to hear that? You're not, anyways. So,
Who needs static, right?
Who needs static?
Something to carry it all in. Backpack, we're very partial to Pelican cases. If you happen to have a large vehicle that's well suited to it, whatever it is, definitely how you carry your gear around, whether it's the antenna in the bra or whatever works best for you. I find the antenna in the bra is very uncomfortable, but, different strokes.
And in years past, we've had people come try where we live in order to sit outside our houses in order to try to catch us experimenting and configuring and testing, so that vehicle was not exactly a total half-truth.
Yeah, it's very good to not slow down while the pizza guy is at the door. Just saying. Like, maybe not the best time to drive by. Antennas. Antennas. Lots of antennas. Definitely lots of antennas. I'm a big fan of antennas. 2 relevant polarization. That would be horizontal and vertical.
Just like last night.
Okay. 3 basic radiation patterns. That would be omnidirectional. Omnidirectional does not mean omnidirectional. It means omnidirectional on the horizontal plane. Gain is not an active thing when you're talking about antennas. It's a passive thing. So what it's actually doing is it's reshaping the signal and sending it in a more focused direction. In the case of omnidirectional antennas, it's talking about omnidirectional on the horizontal plane at the cost of losing the vertical plane. So if you've got a 9 dB antenna on floor 2 of your house, and you go down to floor 1 right below it, and you Wi-Fi access point, the answer is not an 18 dBi antenna. More gain, more better, right? No, seriously. Learn what radiation patterns look like. This is an important fact.
Imagine taking a donut and squishing it. That's effectively what you're doing when you're messing with the gain settings of a horizontally polarized omnidirectional antenna. There are such a things as antennas that are both horizontal and vertical omnidirectional. They start going into some fun little designs, like helix antenna designs and other fun things like that, but they're not going to be relevant for the challenges. But they can be fun to make or bring. I think ShmooCon 2 years ago, I made people try to intercept a weather satellite as a part of one of the challenges. And for that, you did need to make a antenna. And the GPS was important because you need to know where you were and when you were in order to receive and intercept it. But who knows? Maybe that's here, maybe it's not. Just saying.
So omnidirectional, then there's semi-directional, which is a little more towards your classic directional, where it's going to be nothing to the sides, nothing to the back, more towards the forward, but like 120 degrees or something like that. And then you get down to the highly directional, the 60 or so or less degree directionals, where they're really going to push a lot of power towards it. One of my favorite talks, and thank God we've been recording talks recently, so you all can get the benefit of it. Simon J., who's now one of our team members, gave a how-to fox hunt talk, and one of the things he talked about in the video is learn your equipment. This antenna I'm holding is supposed to point this way, but it actually gets better signal that way. So you will literally be going in the exact opposite direction of the signal if you don't test your stuff. We did a fox hunt at DerbyCon as part of our training class last year. There were people running these antennas, and they didn't realize that the top lobe, that would be, it's supposed to go this way, but it's actually going that way. The top lobe was more powerful than the front lobe on that specific setup for these people. And because they had never used the antenna before, they had no idea. So the guys actually tried to lockpick their way into the revolving restaurant on the top of the building that was closed, because when he held it up like this, he got the best signal. But it was pointed back to the room where we had the stuff stashed. He literally didn't know which direction to aim his antenna.
Because he didn't test.
Because test your equipment, know your equipment. It's like the back of your hand. You should know everything. That's new. It's really important that you go over this stuff, practice, test, understand your equipment. Because if you have no idea what you're doing, you'll have no idea what you're doing. There's a joke there somewhere.
Yeah.
So, omnidirectional. You got your ever popular
Smith chart.
Very simple charts. Semi-directional is going to be pushing majority in a direction, but there's always a back lobe or a side lobe or something like that. For having these charts for your antennas is amazingly helpful. You can see in this case that the back lobe at a certain point is just as strong as the front lobe. So you can literally, it could be dead in front of you or dead behind you. You have no idea. And the side lobes on this specific one is pretty impressive.
And I will quickly add on this. It's important to purchase antennas most of the time because you end up getting these charts because they're tested by the FCC. They also have these charts available, so you kind of get a better idea as to what you're purchasing versus one that you made yourself. Who here has access to a RF anechoic? All right. So, with that in mind, don't make your own antennas unless you can make your own charts and understand exactly what it is the spectral propagation out of that sucker is across different bands and frequencies. Or you can test, but every ounce counts. Kind of knowing what's happening is far better than just guessing and being completely wrong.
Highly directional. We actually have people come to DEF CON with stuff like this every single year.
And it's hilarious.
We think it's funny as hell.
Don't do it.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, don't buy your antenna seat on the airplane just to bring it out here. You're not going to need that kind of equipment. Not for us anyway. But hey, good on you. We've had people like with satellite dishes and stuff. It's fun. Good for them. Target selection. Shoot you. Oh, wait. Look for hotspots.
That's victim selection.
Oh.
That's later.
We're supposed to be the victims. Oh, okay. Look for hotspots. One of the first things that I do in most engagements is I go like a little distance away from the building and I point an antenna at the building that's very directional. And I just kind of walk the building to see what's going on where, so I know where to bother spending time, where I should hang out, where I should do. Look for what's going on, determine what the limits are that you're working with. Can I play this from the parking structure across the street? Maybe that's best, depends on the building. It's really important to know what your range is, how far you can get with stuff. If they have really expensive silver film covering the windows, you gotta cut your range down pretty hard. It's key to know these kinds of things. Look for things that are within your target set. We're very good about telling you what you are attacking. We will list MAC addresses, often we'll list modes, we'll list most of the frequencies or very close to the frequencies of the things that we're operating on. For instance, we're not violating the law.
Yep.
I know that's a shocker, right? We're at DEF CON, we're not violating the law. We all have amateur radio tickets, and then there's those unlicensed frequencies. If you're scanning in DoD space, you're probably playing a different game. Okay? I mean, there's a lot of military around here. You could totally do that, and if you're bored, that's great, but seriously, we give you a target set for a reason. Look for stuff within the target set.
Transmitters vary from size, shape, form.
Some are bigger.
Some are bigger, some are smaller. But they're all equally powerful, so it's not the size that counts.
Sometimes it is.
Yeah, something like that. But sometimes they're hidden, sometimes they're not. So don't take something at face value for what it looks like, because it may not be that. So you really need to be, it could be a hidden access point, it could be a hidden radio transmitter, it could be a bug, it could be any one of those sort of things that's just hidden in plain sight.
Things that we're not doing this year that we did in several previous years, we actually planted a bug on our own table throughout, I think, 3 different conferences.
Yeah.
And all it was doing was capturing everything we said and transmitting it over narrow FM. And as nobody actually got the points on that one.
No.
Like, we just left a bug listening to us work the whole time.
We were giving out passphrase,
passphrases. Is this working? Let me SSH into this system. Like, the whole key
inside information to blackmail us with.
We had lots of conversations that would have been very helpful with social engineering, and no. I mean, check for things. Seriously. Come up and look at what's on the bloody table. Seriously. Last year we had 3 days of conference. 2 of those days, when we got there in the morning, we caught people in the room scoping out our gear on the table. I am not advocating breaking into the room, but the room was unlocked, and they walked in, and they looked at everything, they took pictures, they had serial numbers and MAC addresses, and, just saying, homework is good. Recon's good. Putting it all together. Right tools for the right job. Again, this is as close to a real-world simulation as we can possibly make it, and we try to make it even more so every time we do it. This is not a game where you are testing your puzzle-solving skills, although some of Russ's definitely degenerate into that if you go far enough into his meta. I think, one he explained at ShmooCon for 20 minutes had 6 different meta challenges. So you crack this, and then you look at the metadata from that, and then that's another key, and then that leads you to this, and then you can use that to decode that.
And you can hopscotch around.
You can get crazy with that stuff, but the vast majority of it is fairly straightforward, find this security camera transmitting picture and then put it on a loop so you can break into the bank. It's fun.
But it can go further than that. Sometimes.
So know your tools, know the limitations of what you're using, find the right stuff. SDR and GNU Radio, it's really definitely what we talk about the most, because that's what people are trying to learn the most, because if you can't crack a web key by this point...
Go back to YouTube.
Yeah.
So, onto the, I'll give your throat a chance to break. On the SDR side of the fence, having listened, or read, rather, a lot of the messages in IRC and on various user forums, trying to figure out what the signal is, and all that sort of stuff, there's one website that you can go to that is called the Signal Identification Guide, or the SIGINT Wiki. So as you're looking at these things from a waterfall perspective in GQRX or any other Radio Companion or any other available tool out there, there's a lot of people who have done a lot of homework on protocol demodulation and identification for you. So the first thing that you're going to notice with SDR stuff is that you're going to probably use the best computer that you have available, your brain. And then that's connected to your ears, and you're going to be listening to the signal. And AFSK, OOC, and all that sort of stuff sound very different from each other. All the various ham radio protocols, if you listen to them enough, you can immediately start identifying them faster than if you were to write a piece of code and start trying to demodulate everything on the go. So
this website's awesome. It's basically like the YouTube preview pane, except it's all signals. So it'll show you the waterfall and let you listen to everything. And seriously, that's why nobody has a software that does this, because they are all terrible compared to you. Just looking at it, listening to it, they'll either look the same and sound completely different, or sound the same and look completely different. This is the best website we're giving you a hint for.
yes,
Write that down.
They have the waterfalls, they have audio samples, they have descriptions of it, and since a kind of a real-world sort of crowdsourcing of signal identification, there's other information about like where the people were, what frequency they were on, and all kind of geospatial sort of stuff that's unimportant for the CTF. However, what is important is the waterfall and the auto sampling and what the signal type is. The other things that you need to be aware of, so you're going to probably be, hopefully in the future, practicing some of the stuff at home. And if you don't have a ham radio license, definitely get that as a priority. But in addition to that, there's going to be some things that you're going to need to be aware about in your home lab so that you don't random email messages regarding what's the signal and everyone telling you it's Wi-Fi and it's not, and being insistent that it's not Wi-Fi when it is Wi-Fi. When you ask someone what something is and about 10 people tell you what it is and you still are defiant about it, don't do that. Anyways, otherwise you wouldn't be asking, right? But we'll cover some problems regarding common issues that you're going to be encountering. A little quick speech about lightning, because you may want to set some of these antennas up outside.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'll do that. But starting with antennas, when you buy those RTLs, the antennas that come with them are not that great. And they're not that great for a lot of really good reasons. One of those really frequent reasons is because the conductor of the antenna is not actually connected together well. It may have been soldered there together at one point, but due to vibration or anything else, it flexes and just disconnects. So in short, wait, that could be a pun. Dad joked myself again. Well, that's what you actually have going on inside that thing. So what I highly recommend is ditch those antennas. Go on Amazon, get an MCX SMA adapter pigtail. They're super cheap. Get a lot of them. And then that way you can actually start connecting up real antennas or better antennas that have SMA connectors.
This goes with the know your equipment and test your equipment stuff. Test your antennas. Take your antennas apart. See what's different between your antennas. If you have a bad antenna, it happens. I think the original lot of like Hack RFs, the ANT 500s they were sold with, had like a 5% failure rate. It was just they were shorting on the inside, and you just had to slip open the cover, fix it, and then close it back up. But so many people were like, "Man, this piece of junk doesn't work at all." And it's like, could you put a paperclip in there? Yeah, okay. Wow, this thing's amazing. Like, okay, if the paperclip is a better antenna, maybe fix the short.
Yeah, like if the room is constantly off when you turn on and off the light switch, it might be the light bulbs, or it could be the switch. But what's an easier troubleshooting method than replacing the system? Change the bulb. Alrighty. Next one. Lightning wants to be your friend. Don't be Lightning's friend. So when you start dealing with radio systems and antenna systems, nothing will save your life in your house and your possessions better than a really good electrical grounding system. This is a photograph from an Ethernet connector off of a radio system that I managed. It's a packetized Ethernet radio system. And the grounding system that was built for it was engineered wonderfully. The radio survived 100%. It came from the radio through a 5-foot patch cable into a lightning arrestor, which also survived. That 5-foot cable, this is one of the connectors from it. I'd rather replace a 5-foot cable than a ton of extra Ethernet through walls and floors and ceilings, and or a radio or a lightning arrestor. So, and all the various ham radio study guides, they talk about making sure that you have good lightning arrestors, really good solid equipment for that. If you don't have an electrical background, hire an electrician to do it for you. My house has been struck multiple times. All of my radios have survived. There have been no fires. I've replaced grounding once in a while. I'd rather do that. And my neighbor had to replace his electrical panel in his house, regretfully. I helped him with that. But lightning will want to be your friend. So as that bolt comes down, it's going to induce a lot of extra current and random stuff all over the place. So the best thing that you can do is, if you're going to start putting these antennas up, is make sure that you are hypersensitive towards spurts and high voltages in random places and random equipment. I've seen it touch random stuff. So don't let it, control it, guide it, and you should be fine and safe.
Just a quick interlude for those of you who aren't staring at your watches. It is 16:53. This is the last talk in this track, and I don't actually have to turn this room back over to the hotel for like an hour. And since this is our track, we're just going to keep talking until we're done. So you're all welcome to join us, or you're all welcome to run to the next talk that you were planning on before we rudely ran over as long as we felt like it. So we're going to keep talking, but I just wanted you to know that there is a time if you were desperate for the next talk.
No hard feelings. Alrighty. The next thing, along with lightning, static is a problem. If you put your antennas up outside, as wind blows against those antennas, they will generate a static charge. ESD is just as bad to your radio as lightning is bad to your radio. I've had RTLs on the tabletop, and as the MCX connector rubs inside that bulkhead connector, it generates or passes off a small static shock. This is the radio to reboot. You'll actually see in Linux UDEV that it actually resets itself as if I unplugged it and plugged it back in. So be sensitive to the existence of ESD.
Very sensitive.
Very sensitive. Because a lot of these RTLs do not have ESD protection. There are no diodes between the antenna and the rest of the radio system.
We could literally do a how to not design a radio talk using just screenshots of RTL hardware.
So the what would happen in this particular case is, as a shock or a charge gets delivered through the system, it fries your radio. And then it can also potentially be passed across your USB bus, which you don't want. So don't forget to check out to make sure that you can easily just pop open your RTL and see if it has an ESD diode in it or not. Actually, that was the Department of Redundancy Department, electrostatic shock diode protection. Anyways, so be cautious about that. There's some other things that will drive you nuts if you're new to this sort of thing. You'll see random spikes all over the damn spectrum. Sometimes these things are clock sources. These could be clock sources from your equipment, from a harmonic off of the power that's powering your equipment. It could be from your laptop. It could be from someone else's laptop. I've seen it. I saw something that was so narrowband on FM, and it was kind of coming in and coming out. It turned out to be a guy's pacemaker.
My personal favorite example of this is when developing the Ubertooth. When developing GR Bluetooth, they were first practicing sniffing Bluetooth stuff. One of the developers spent like more than a week sniffing his CPU clock. He was trying to sniff 2.4 gigahertz Bluetooth, and he was using a 2.4 gigahertz laptop. So it would literally... Yeah, it's a really easy mistake to make. You can ask him about it over beer if you want. He's right over there, and he's got a funny accent. But it's these things he's right, though. I mean, one of the first things you're trained to do when you get a radio is, like, take the antenna off, tune through the entire frequency set. If you get anything,
That's a noise source.
Bad frequency. That's a birdie, something wrong with the radio. It's generating stuff internal, and you should be ignoring that. And if that's not the first thing you do with your radio, then you probably should read these handy guides here.
Exactly. So they're from the government, and they're here to help. So you have the mitigation of radio noise from external sources at radio receiving sites. That's hyphenated. And then you also have the Naval RFI Handbook. And in these two guidebooks, they talk about a lot of different topics. But the two most important ones, the one most important one that I have two examples of is called barrier feed and ground principles, BFG. We've all played video games that reference that moniker. But in this particular case, what is wrong about the power adapter on the power supply of that computer? It's a plastic bulkhead connector connected to a metal case. So any noise coming across those wires are not being properly passed off into the ground bus. So you would want to make sure that the connector for that is a metal box connector. This was an example from the Naval book regarding this spurious signal that was happening at it was a SCADA system, and they were tracking it for weeks, and they couldn't figure out what it was. It turned out that it was coming from that plug on the power supply. Another example is this grounding rod connector head. They have, who has done outside antenna feed work before? All right, what is the first rule of thumb about metals when connecting them together for long-term permanent connections? Yes, you do not want to have dissimilar metals. What do you think happened with that connector there? It's got some nice oxidized connection points on it. They used dissimilar metals, and then they gooped around it. So it trapped water in it as well. This was a ground bus for a cell phone tower site that was constantly out of balance. That was the cause. They couldn't figure it out for whatever reason, but they couldn't figure out what the problem was for a long time. The FCC showed up and actually did some measurements for it, and this is also in that guidebook. So you need to really pay attention to all these subtle little nuances when you're setting this stuff at home. So talking about clocks again, the RTLs have some of the worst clocks that are out there, but they're usable enough. So one of the main things that you'll want to do when you plug it in is establish your offset. When it says it's 100 megahertz, it's not 100 megahertz. It's got an offset of a drift anywhere between 1 hertz to, I've seen it as bad as maybe 140 kilohertz. So one of the best things that you can do is find some of these well-known transmitter sites that are all over a particular country of choice. We're in the United States. The North American Weather, NOAA, Oceanic. So anyways, they've set up transmitters all across the U.S. that are very, very specifically tuned on very, very specific frequencies. What you would do is you would take your RTL, find their frequency, center it up, and then figure out what your offset is based upon what they say it is. Because theirs is 100% accurate, and your RTL is awful. Yes, and the as you also use it longer, it's going to start, that clock is going to start to drift more. So your signal is going to move up and down the spectrum just a little bit. So if you're going to be watching for a longer period of time, be aware that 100 megahertz isn't going to be 100 megahertz clean for a while longer. It'll start drifting. You need to choke out your signal sources or your noise sources on your power lines and your USB bus. And then one of the neat things that is a unified PPM clock source, because when you do that, you can do some really cool, crazy modifications to your RTLs. So if you were to replace the crystal that's on this piece of awfulness, $10-ish, bought in bulk RTL adapter, and you replace their clock source with a unified clock source, you can have more fun at a lower price. Question?
Just on the figuring out your
Offset.
Offset. It's cool. It's what we calibrate RTL.
Yes.
Calibrate it works against GSM cell towers.
Yes. Yes, there are tools that are out there that will continually help you establish what your offset is. Yes, absolutely. And
Black shirt.
black shirt question? Nope. Okay. Alrighty. So this is one of the goofy things that you can do. The price point for achieving this is you just better buy a HackRF. But it is possible.
But seriously, buy a HackRF.
Buy a HackRF. Now, in regards to temperature management and the effects of signal and noise and clock drift, there's options of being able to dunk the whole thing in oil. Sometimes it works better, sometimes it doesn't. I've seen other people make aluminum housings, passive cooling. Every ounce counts in some degree or another. You will eventually probably result in a stronger signal or a worse signal depending on what you got. If you go with the option of dunking it in oil, yeah, you can use vegetable oil. Yeah, it'll go rancid eventually. If you do go with the option of vegetable oil, make sure your pets don't eat it, otherwise you get two problems. And mineral oil, you want to be careful about the ones that have vitamins, because they will corrode the connectors and cause other electrical issues. So that is the bulk of the summary for what we have for everyone. Every conference that we're at, we're bringing out new challenges. We're constantly bolting on, changing things up. Typically between, for each major discipline, we can have as many as 25 challenges for that major discipline, and we have probably about 4 different disciplines at a particular point. So at the major conferences, obviously, there's many more challenges. Currently, right now, the majority of the challenges live between 30 megahertz to 6 gigahertz, but they do go lower. So be aware of that as well. So there's equipment for up converters and down converters that is also equally important. Questions, queries, posers. The meaning of life is 42. Yes.
Question on, you mentioned having different challenges for the different SDR platforms to showcase the particular...
Yes.
What kind of differences do you see between the HackRF, the Blade RF, the USRP? Repeat the question.
Alrighty. So what are the major differences, or how are we doing the showcasings for the different SDR major platforms like Blade RF, HackRF, and USRP? Is that a good paraphrase? Okay. So on SDR.Ninja, I break down the major differences. Sometimes those differences are based upon sample size or sample rate. Sometimes it's half duplex versus full duplex. So, for instance, the Blade RF is a full duplex platform. One of the challenges may include the need or exercising of a full duplex communication real time. So you're receiving as you're transmitting at the same time. But it doesn't cover the same frequency space that, say, the HackRF does. So the HackRF may be operating in frequency bands that the Blade RF can't touch. The USRP has all these really kind of goofy bolt-on card adapters and all that sort of stuff. Some of them are pretty unique, so you would have to have the USRP platform to begin with. That's kind of like the broad stroke answer without saying exactly what the challenges are. If you see any of our debriefings, we kind of cover exactly how some of those things are built.
To give you a hint, some of the challenges, some of the challenges may be submitted to us by friends, and we might with say the guys that make HackRF, the guys that make Blade RF, the guys that make USRP, they might speak for us every year. So like, you know, if they give me something, all I have to do is run this script. Sometimes it just gets run, and it's a lot of fun because what we did last year was we actually took the challenge from the Blade RF guy, and that person won a HackRF, and we took the challenge from the HackRF guys, and that person won a Blade RF. Because if you need a Blade RF to win this challenge, why am I going to give you another Blade RF? So we actually took something that they did and then mixed up their customers and gave them something else. We have a lot of fun with this stuff, and the goal is, again, to learn your hardware, to learn how this stuff works, and then we give you something new to keep learning.
Exactly. Any other questions, queries, posers? No?
42.
Yes.
When you announce this stuff, I've never turned up early enough in the morning to see the start of the world scene. When you announce the challenges, like, do you say this is the HackRF challenge so that everyone who doesn't have a HackRF knows
No, we do not. So the question is do we categorize that challenge A as a HackRF challenge, challenge B as a challenge? No, we do not announce what tool you need to use to attack that challenge. But you will figure it out fairly quickly if you just don't even either see it or
the challenges.
interact with it correctly.
We have an in brief, and it lists the challenges and roughly what you have to accomplish. Knowing your equipment definitely helps a lot, but I'm not going to give you an equipment list for each challenge, suggested or otherwise, because some of these things are really, really easy, and some of them I want you to know your own equipment. So, I mean, it definitely will say silly things like, you need to decode something on 5.8 gigahertz, and that pretty much leaves you the Wi-Fi or a HackRF, so, like, figure it out.
Yeah, so I will say, last year the HackRF challenge was POCSAG on just under 6 gigahertz. And that was mean. It was really mean. I think only 3 people attacked it and 1 got it. And then Blade RF challenge was full duplex AFSK, which is also equally mean. And still possible because the packet rate for it, you needed to do, you needed to have at least a 16 megahertz cycle on it, as opposed to some other ones. So you had to capture it very quickly because it was farting it out really quickly. Otherwise, you would see what you would see as 1 pulse was actually 2 or 3. Any others? Okie dokie, we'll see you at DEF CON.